Hello, rock stars. Welcome to In the Pit. I'm your host, Rick. And yes, I'm still on timeout. I know you guys are like, Rick, how many days? I quit counting. I'm a drummer. I got to 4 and I'm like, okay, I'm still in timeout. But this week, our guest is none other than Phil Varone. How are you, sir?
Me? Is someone called my name?
I was talking about the guy behind you. Like,
well, usually there is, but that's a whole nother story. Don't get me started on that.
Wait, do you have a chaperone too?
No, I think it's security that's trying to, like more like police, I think is more.
Yeah, mine's just a chaperone because I'm always in trouble for something. How are you, man?
Your wife sends, right? To watch over you. That's why. She's smart.
She's smart. You know the leashes that they have at Disney World for the kids? It's like a body harness and you just hold them.
Yeah.
That's really what she needs for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good idea when you think about it. Just tie you on a tree. I'll be back later. So.
The thing is, I would be gnawing. You come back and I'd be gnawing at the rope. And
you'd get into some trouble in a 4-foot diameter. There's no way. Something would go down.
Okay, are you a typical drummer like me where you can have conversations with yourself and it's like, I don't need anybody else around. I'll just.
Yes. And you know, I edit. When I sit here and I'm whether recording music or editing video, I have deep conversations with myself. What I found out lately is I don't even listen to myself. So that's how boring I am. So I won't
I do listen because I have to rebut my objections. So of course, like we have some very intense conversations, and I'll be honest with you, the best ones are when I'm in the car driving and I'm mad at somebody and I'm having an argument with them, so that when I finally actually talk to them in person, I'm like, it's okay.
Well, you know what? Maybe that's a good way to do it. That might like stop a lot of kind of fighting or whatever. But it got to the point where my girlfriend's like, "Are you talking?" Like initially, because they don't really when you're getting to know people, they're just like, "Are you talking to me?" She pulls like a De Niro, and I'm just like, "No, I'm just talking to myself." So now it's to the point where no one pays attention to me. So even if there was something like if the house was on fire, I think I would have to get out myself.
You'd have to get out the drum because that's the only time they listen to me is when I'm banging the drum.
Yeah, when you hit something.
That's questionable at best. Oh my God,
Lots of talking though. Yeah.
Okay, so you know what? We can do another show later, and it'll be drummer therapy 101, and all the drummers that are not ignored in the world, we'll all get together for like a group session.
Yeah. And no one will listen to anybody. We'll just play drums and talk to ourselves. That's
my Lord. You know what? So. Drum circles. And okay. So kind of like breast cancer can stick. We just had drumathon, which was a great way to raise money, but you get a bunch of drummers together and throw a couple drum sets on stage. Like, okay, we're entertained. Like we could do this all day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you talk about hours went by and you're like, what is it? 7 hours later. And we're all sitting there like ready to play more. It was crazy.
Oh, my Lord.
It's drums. But drums have always been my therapy, though. I have to say, if I'm having a bad day, just to sit down and play a little bit and get it out. And I don't know if it's because we get tired or we just work it out. Like this, you could work it out. But we're recording a new record. My new band is called Panic Boom. And it's a band that we're going to introduce in my documentary, the 30 Years of Drummer doc.
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. So, but we were recording the record, and because of COVID and stuff, we were doing it in different places. Yeah. We live in all over the US basically. The band has not gotten in a room since 94. Like we formed this band 30 years ago, and most of the songs were written back then, and we just kind of put a new twist on it. So one night, I was, home, and they gave me a new song. They had an idea for this crazy song. I was having a bad day, and I sat down and played, and I got the song down in about 1 or 2 takes because that's what But I played like 15 takes, and I recorded every one of them, and just to listen to it. When I sent it to the singer, he goes, "Whoa, like that was insane. Like, what do you?" I said, "I was working shit out." Yep. That's what I was doing. And it was my therapy that night, because if I didn't have that, I don't know, I wouldn't know how to get it out, and it was like, my good friend and singer from Skid Row, John Solinger, had just passed away. It was like that kind of stuff. And it was like, just life. And the drums, man, it came through. When I was done, I listened to it. I was exhausted and kind of just got it out, but
exhausted, but also relieved and at peace. Because again, the drums, I think for most drummers, it takes the brunt of a lot of life
Yes.
that we have to throw at it.
Yeah.
And it's not what everyone thinks. It's not always just bash the living daylights out of it. Sometimes it is some of the softest stuff.
Yeah.
But there's something emotional going on, and you are my conduit to release it from my soul and kind of get out there and deal with it.
Yeah.
When did you know? What age?
Well, the funny part about this is that I didn't want to play drums. And
we all want to be a guitarist.
No, I wanted to be a trumpet player.
I was a trumpet player.
You were. See that? And because when I was in grade school, like 4th grade or so, they had a music program, and they came around to every classroom and they asked if you wanted to be part of the orchestra. And by this, you would have to take lessons with the person there, the instructor. And then if you were good enough, you would be put in orchestra. Yeah. And I wanted to play trumpet because my buddy Richie, he was like the trumpet player. He got all the chicks. I'm in 4th grade. What do you know? Like,
you don't know anything.
It's so ridiculous when you think about it. But I just remember him like being the coolest dude because he just had this swagger. I don't think it had anything to do with the trumpet, but he was just a cool dude, and a nice guy. And girls seemed to like him. So I was like, that must be where you got to go. So unfortunately for me, I had issues with my ears. And I was basically going to go deaf if I were to play trumpet because of the pressure.
And drums were such a safe alternative.
Well, the thing about it is I could put earplugs in. That's what saved it because there was no like constant, the pressure of your ears. And I said the same thing. I was just like, all right, I'll play drums. And that just kind of started the whole tick, 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 tick. And then I was in orchestra and learned how to play, but I never played drum set. So I kind of gave it up. It's like a weird thing how it all happened because when I was living in New York, my parents decided to move to Florida, which every Italian has to end up in Florida. That's just we're predisposed. It's like
I'm noticing that.
Yeah, if you're New York Italian or Jewish, you're in Florida at some point. That's it. The question is, do you decide to die there or you move out? It's one or the other. But you're going to Florida, so you can guarantee that. When I was in Florida, I decided to. I really wanted to be an architect and a golf pro. So I went that route. And so I started playing in the Junior PGA Tour, forgot about drums. I mean, it wasn't even on my list at all. And I was studying architecture and working for Westinghouse. I was in 10th grade. It was something I picked up. Yeah. And then it happened. A guy named Tom Reinhardt, who is still a friend of mine. He came up to me and I was scared from this guy. Like he was like, it was like I was going to get beat up guy. You know what I mean? Like you wanted him on your side. So I was just like, and I was like the smart kid in school. I was under the radar. No one liked me. I had a Freddie Prinze mustache. I mean, nobody wanted the Tony Orlando bangs. It was bad, right?
Oh my god!
It was just that stage. It was
you needed a makeover.
Bad. But back then you would say no because it was 83. It was like that's what we looked like. You know, like it was crazy. So, anyways, long story short, Tom came up to me and goes, "Hey man, you play drums?" And I was just scared shitless. I'm like, yeah. I think I don't know. And he came to my house that night with a crate amplifier and a guitar. I had no drums. I had nothing. And I know this is cliche because every drummer's got it. But I said to my mother, I need something to hit, and she gave me a set of pans that like fell into each other. Like if you took camping, like metal pans, and gave me wooden spoons.
100%.
We played a Crazy Train from Ozzy.
Oh my God.
And that was the first time I heard somebody play it on guitar. So I was blown away because up until then I just listened to records. Yeah. And my brain was not into concerts, and I was going to be a golf pro and an architect. And that changed everything. But back when then after that I saw MTV, of course, came out. It was just starting. And then I saw the Looks That Kill video. And you
and I are almost the same age. I think you're a year older than me. And so we were there at the precipice, at the beginning part of MTV. I remember seeing ZZ Top, Tom Petty.
Blew you away, right?
Oh,
it was crazy.
Yeah. Wow. And so here now we fast forward, all these years later, and it's like, now I get mad when they say, oh, MTV. I'm like, there's no videos.
Yeah, that's not music. It's just stuff. No, but think about that when you first saw MTV. What was your reaction? My head.
I went from being a little skateboarder going, I want to play music. And my parents, I asked my parents for a drum set. They said, no, they're just too darn loud. And I was like,
yeah,
great. Can I have a guitar? And
even
they got
louder.
me. Oh, no, I didn't get an amp. I just got the guitar.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see. I wasn't smart enough to like, here's my whole list of equipment needed. So they get me a guitar and it was cheap. And I played it for like 15 minutes and I was like, this sucks. Like the strings are too close together. And I'm like, this sucks. So it sat in my room collecting dust. And then after I graduated high school, I went off to college for a couple of years, and then I moved to Seattle, and I just said, screw it. You know what? I'm buying a drum set, and the rest is like down the road we go. I was in music. That's simple.
I took guitar lesson. I took one guitar lesson, and I was so bored. And there was a guy playing "Cats in the Cradle," which is a great song, but I'm like, someone kill me right now. I got to get out of here. I need something to hit. I wanted to, kind of like just try things. I play bass now. I mean, because that's part of drumming. And I play piano. I mean, that's what you do. It's I write on piano, but
it is a percussive instrument.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, it's just funny how Gene Simmons said it the best. We're talking about MTV. He said, people listen with their eyes. And it's a very and that's how, with Kiss, it was that's the circus, right?
Yep.
And that's what it was to me when I watched MTV, because I was in rehearsal with my band, Ripping Fingers.
Ripping Fingers?
Yeah.
I love it.
And with the greatest names ever back then, we had Ripping Fingers. But I remember coming out of rehearsal and my guitar player, Tony Cortese, who's in Panic Boom now.
Okay.
Like, these are guys that are 30.
You've known him forever.
Yeah. And these are all my buds, so it's really fun. He is very well off. So he had a rehearsal room. His dad was a mobster. It was great. I loved it. So it was like, I come out of rehearsal and there's this giant screen television, and I'm just sitting there, and then Motley comes on, and it was like mug drop, what is this? Like, what is this band? Yeah. And I saw Tommy twirling, and I'm like, what the hair? And I'm like, I want to be that. And I within a couple of months, I quit golf because it got into band rehearsal. It got into my time. I continued doing drafting. When I graduated in '85, I said to my parents, because I had a scholarship offer, because Westinghouse was doing this great program where they put you to school and then you work doing the CAD system, which is computer drafting, came out. I mean, it just came out. So they put you to school, and then I had a job at Westinghouse, and I was like, I want to be a drummer. And my parents, who they were the best. Like, you can't pick better parents for support. And they said, okay, listen, you got to work though. You got to go to work. So I graduated on a Friday. On Monday, I was cutting lawns. And 4 years later, I got a record deal. So technically speaking, there's your college,
Yeah.
And there we go. So it was kind of like that. And so back to the question, I wasn't planning on being a drummer. It was just something I did in school. And then when Tom, I got so scared I was going to get beat up, he kind of made me play drums. So I owe him everything. And I tell him that stuff, You're like,
thank you, Tom.
You're
my idol.
and Tony Cortese, who was my buddy, who was so patient with me, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't, I was just hitting things, and he was very patient and let me play.
I need to make T-shirts. I can't stop thinking about it. Behind every beginning drummer is a set of wooden spoons. I'm just saying, there's a T-shirt there, because every drummer started that way. It is, but it's funny. We all started that way. Or now it's take a 5-gallon plastic bucket, and it's amazing the sounds you can make. Even if you leave me alone in the garage, I'm gonna end up sitting there goofing off. Like, I'll take a 5-gallon bucket and start playing. Like,
it sounds great.
They do. They sound awesome.
And we are drummers. Are like, if you're playing a drum set and then somebody hits something that's a cool sound, you're like, hey, what's that? Let me hear that. Because you have to, because that's how you get better. Because I believe this. I don't care if the drummer is 7 years old or 100 years old. They all have something to show you if you stop and listen. Don't ever think you're good because there's somebody way better than you. And that's what I like about it. Because I can watch somebody and go, oh, I'm going to use that. Because that's what I did.
I was okay. You mentioned Greg. And I'm telling you, I sat there and watched Greg, and I was doing this, and literally I was studying him, going, oh my God, I'm an amateur. And yet I know to some folks, they go, oh my God, Ric, it's awesome watching you play drum. And I'm always like, thank you so much. But I'm mediocre to average at best. And they go, what are you talking about? And I finally realized a few years ago what it is I have not achieved the image in my head that I want to achieve. So it will never be good enough. We're always striving.
But you're still good. You know, like
good, but not my personal, what I want to be. And so it's any drummer that's worth their weight, like they're out there doing it. You're always going to have a level to achieve. And I guarantee you, Greg was on here right now. He'd be like, oh yeah, no, I'm not where I want to be.
Absolutely.
He's going to be
smart
like
that way though. But I mean, Neil Peart was getting lessons till the day he died. I mean, this is what it's about. You know, it doesn't matter, because you just said it right. It's you. It's what you want. You know, it's not. And I always find it's so touching and amazing when drummers come up to me and tell me about my drumming. And I'm just like a kid from, it just puts you back to the days. Like, I'm just a guy that plays drums. I can't imagine influencing somebody to play drums. Although I just did the Bonzo Bash a couple of years ago with.
Oh, how was that?
There's no here's back to this. There's no reason why I should have been playing, because it's like those guys, you know what I mean? This just goes back to your brain. Like, I can't believe it. But one of my favorites was on the bill, and
who?
Brian Tishy's a good buddy of mine who puts it together. So I call Tish up and I go, dude, I heard Stephen Perkins is playing, from Jane's Addiction.
Yeah.
And he's on the bill, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, all right. Well, I go, listen, I might have a problem. I might just scream and pass out meeting this guy, because Stephen Perkins is the god to me of drumming, because I stole everything from him. Yeah. If you listen to the first, not the first record, but the second, Jane's Addiction.
Ritual Dehabitual?
No, the Nothing Shocking record.
Nothing Shocking,
before. But Nothing Shocking was their first, I guess, major.
Yes.
But if you listen to that record and then compare my drumming, that I listened to that religiously. Back then it was Steve Perkins, John Bonham, Tommy Lee. Those are the three, the combo.
Wow.
So when I saw him recently,
diverse drummers, not all the same. Diverse,
and I think that Bonham gets credit, but Tommy Lee is a fantastic drummer. Oh, like, he never gets credit because of
his showman.
Yeah, because of his craziness. But that guy could play drums. I mean, that's a marching guy. I mean, he has the chops. But so I go up to Steve Perkins and I go, I'm a huge fan. I'm Saigon Kick, and he knows me in that sense. And I go, look, I just want to say thank you. I stole every one of your drum beats and I made them mine, but I do give you credit for it.
And I think I just peed myself.
Yeah, it's like, who is this guy, right? No, but I always feel that, like, if somebody influenced you that much, and you got to give credit. And then, of course, after that was Matt Cameron from Soundgarden.
And Matt's a really nice guy.
Yeah, that guy. I haven't met him yet, but another really guy that I stole. Soundgarden is my favorite band out of Seattle, period. I mean, that's the band. And they have this song called Hands All Over, one of their first records. That's incredible drumming. If you listen to Peppermint Tribe on the Saigon Kick record, second record, stole it. All that stuff.
Wow.
And I just want to go, dude, like, that's how much it influenced me to play. And it's really nice to hear sometimes, but it's still weird,
No, I think that people have to hear that, even if you've made it, because you want to know, like, even I try to make sure I inspire the younger drummers, because I meet a lot of them. That's my mission is, can we get, because they're the next generation. And if somebody sees something, they come up and I'm always like, thank you so much. I'd love to show you something. You want to give back, because that's how the knowledge progressively gets passed down generation after generation.
Agreed. Yeah.
One of my first big idols was Stuart Copeland. I'm like, oh my God, the Police.
God, yeah.
And then my next one was Jimmy Chamberlain. I'm a huge Pumpkins fan.
Another great.
And then Trey Cool, and Trey Cool for me, because
I'm cool. I mean, his drumming style is so fun.
But it's not that there aren't better drummers. Yeah. Those were the three that pop. Like, you got to beat Neil, John, again, Tommy. Like, there's a plethora of
absolutely.
Brian Tishy's another one that I'm like,
great.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I've never met him. If I ever had the chance to meet him and just yap with him, it would probably be like this, but it would be like, because he seems like a really down-to-earth guy, but he's got the chops that you want to sit there and go, stop, can we rewind and play that slowly? Just let me count it. And
a great dude, and you should have him on the show. I'll hook you guys up, because
I'll hit you up afterwards.
Yeah, he's just such a cool dude. And those guys, I have a funny story. Tommy Aldridge was like a guy that I love to watch and went to his clinics. So when Skid Row was opening up for Kiss, it was Kiss, Ted Nugent, and
wow.
us.
Wow.
Now, Tommy was playing with Ted Nugent, right? And in Tommy's contract, he was allowed a 30-minute warm-up before the doors opened at 6. So from 5:30 to 6, Tommy was up playing. So the first night I got on the tour, I came in about a week into the tour and replaced their drummer who at the time, he just wasn't working out. Nice guy, just wasn't working out. So I get it. And at the time I had a band with Rachel Bolan. We had a side band, a punk band called Prunella Scales. So we were doing that, and he just called me. He goes, "Dude, you got to come out, and you want to join Skid Row." I was like, "No, I would hate to do that." So I go out there. So the first night I get there, and I just watched the show, and everybody on the tour knew that I was coming in. Like it was like that. So I just watched the show. Yeah. But the first night that I played, the sides,
yes,
stage right and stage left, packed. And I see Tommy, I see Gene, I see Peter, I see and I'm just like, wait a minute, this is crazy right now. This is like, I was in my house yesterday, and now like everybody's on the stage.
Am I about to get punked?
No, yeah, right. And punked would be like, how you play would be the thing, the pressure of it. But so after that, I was playing Easton Sticks. Easton, remember the metal?
Yeah.
And Tommy Aldridge comes over to me. I was next day and he's like, "Hey Phil," he has like Southern things, like, "Hey man, why play that metal stuff? Like what's wrong? Like like
what's wrong with you?"
Yeah, I'm like, what? Tommy Aldridge? What? And from that point forward, every time he went to practice, he'd find me. "Hey Phil, I'm gonna go on stage," and I'd just go up there. And I'd watch him, and then he would show me stuff. So he's doing all these double bass things. I'm like, "Hey, can you show me that one again? Slow it down." So he would show me all this really cool stuff that I was dying to learn from just watching his videos or his clinics that I actually went to as a kid. And
but it's a one-on-one, and it's a very personal where you can ask questions, not just rewind the video.
And a drummer. It's a drummer with a drummer. So you give the info. Like we're not hiding any secrets here. It was like about 2 weeks ago, I see a guy on YouTube playing one of my songs, this tribal song.
Nice.
And I go, "This is cool." So I chimed in, of course. I said, "Man, I just happened to fall on this. This is really exciting. And thank you. It means a lot." I go, "But I'm going to give you the secret to that drum beat." I said, and the secret is, because I do a lot of tribal stuff, right? Yeah. Drummers cannot understand why a drum lands a certain way, right? So in the tribal thing, they think it's like an octopus playing. And I said to him, I go, "That's because my 16 is first on the floor, then the 14. And they go, "Wait, what?" So
you're going up, not down, and everybody's always right. You go down, which actually it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
And but the sound of it makes you sound like you're going across here and go there. I'm like, "No, I just reversed the floor toms," and they're like, it's like a light bulb just went off. And I was like, there's the secret right there. For 30
that was
years.
A tough one for me, because I had always been told you progress down, you know, little drums to big drums. And one day, because I always call myself left-handed stupid, it made sense, because I'm a righty. And I did something, but I went floor tom up to rag tom. And the guys looked at me and I'm like, it worked. Yeah, I could figure it works for me. It's sometimes playing triplets. I'll play triplets with just a left hand and just kick and snare. And it's weird, because sometimes I can be right hand stupid. And really, for all you young drummers that are watching this, sometimes you get a tick in your head and you're like, okay, cut it loose. Like, don't make it harder on yourself than you have to.
You don't have to. And I actually was talking when I did the last record with Jakey Lee. Right. We were talking. He had the song called Speed Bag that it listened to it. If you haven't, I have to say this. I don't brag about my drumming, because I think it's crazy. But the Red Dragon Cartel record called Patina, the last record I did, is by far the best drumming of my career. And playing with Jakey Lee, who has played with the greats, you know, from Carmine Appice, Aldridge, and Randy Castillo, all these great drummers. And here I come in. It took me a week of auditions to get into this band. And he made me play stuff that I never thought I could, because he believed in me. And there's where, it's important for drummers to understand that if you reach deep and you think it's impossible, but it will be possible. Like, and one of the things we studied, which I loved about Jake, is something that I never did before. He goes, look, listen to these records. And he gave me Cactus with Carmine Appice back in, like, when he was shredding, you know, like crazy stuff. Bill Ward from Black Sabbath, I know. And I love these bands, but I never listened. I was, you know, because it was out of my
you thought it was
era.
It wasn't, but
but it was, you know, for me, I was listening to heavy metal. I wasn't listening to the older stuff just then. And I went back and rediscovered drummers and drumming. And then I took that and made it mine. And that's what, and one of the things that we were talking about was Ringo Starr, because he leads with his left hand.
Yeah.
And I said to Greg, the first thing I asked him, I'm like, does Ringo lead with his left? He's like, yeah, he does. That's what throws you off on Ringo's fills. Because that's a different sound, a different feel.
Yes.
You land differently. And one of the fills in this song, Speed Bag, was a left-handed lead triplet, then converted to a right-handed lead in the middle of it. So so I heard it and I was like, when you first listen to it, you're like, yeah, this is yeah, I could do that. And then you play it and you're like, wait a minute, this is not sounding right. And then you go back and I started listening to Ringo records and I'm like, aha. And then I figured it out to cross over in the middle of it, which was like, I'm sorry, I'm getting text.
That's okay.
In the middle of the fill, you would switch over. And so if you want to listen to something crazy, listen to Speed Bag on the Red Dragon Cartel record, Patina.
I've actually had to go back and I'm pretty good with my ears. I will listen to stuff and I can dissect it. But there are certain songs I've had to go back and like, okay, I'm going to pull the tab on this and actually like count it, read it, count it, and then apply it. And sometimes you got to break it down really slow. And once you get the muscle memory, then you're like, okay, now speed it up. Let's speed it up a little more. Yeah. And next thing you know, you're like, I'm not a total moron. I can figure this out.
I mean, I'm sure you can attest to this. I tell drummers the first thing they say, they ask me, hey, can you give me some advice about drumming? I said, yes. Set your metronome at 50 and play a groove. That's your first test in life for a drummer. To me, it's like put on Back in Black. Just play 4, lay it down, and see if you can groove, because without the groove, look, you could play fast. It's fun watching people play fast sometimes. I'm a groove guy. I like it. If you lay it down, like Mark Shulman, this guy lays it. Like you could put a liner in it and take a dip after he's done playing. It's incredible. Same thing with Hannah. All the drummers that day, just had incredible talent for grooving and stuff. So
Lori, and I've known Lori now for a couple of years.
Great.
Watching Lori play, and again, it's such a pleasure. And watching you play, there's something about it, and we are a tribe. If you're a drummer, we are a tribe, and the amount of information that gets passed back and forth, and the inspiration.
And help, because I could tell you, I was telling those guys, we were watching the Def Legend band, and great.
And Ken's a fun drummer to watch.
Amazing. It's the drum sounds, because I'm like, man, that sounds like Ric's kit. They dialed in the drums. Well, I toured with Def Leppard, right? Okay. So, and we were in Europe, and I had a rental kit because we were doing this big run, and we didn't bring anything over. It was Skid Row. So on the first night, I'm playing and stuff, and my snare broke. And I didn't have a backup snare. And I mean, when it broke, it blew the bottom out. It was like,
I know.
It needs repair. There's no, you can't.
We're changing the head.
And, my panicking, and my tech is looking around, and Rick Allen came on stage with a snare drum for me and handed it to me on stage. He is on, he came in
rock star, and he's your now roadie going.
He's a drummer. Yeah. He's not a rock star. He's a drummer. And and I did the same thing for Frankie Benelli. God love him. Terrible loss losing Frankie.
Yes.
They were opening for Skids. His pedal broke. I brought him a pedal because we don't give a shit. Like, we're drummers now.
So let me tell you, I have done that. And that is so awesome to hear, because people have seen me do it many times locally. And I'm like, I don't care that they have a show going on. I've got a brother drummer or sister drummer that's out there. They're having a major malfunction. I know better than anybody what needs to happen to put the drum back into position so that they can keep playing. It's the same reason I always take 2 snares. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, but if you lose a snare, you might be done. I've lost floor toms where they've broken the floor tom, and in between bands, I'm like, hold on. I literally flipped the floor tom over, put the legs in upside down, and they're like, there's no bottom head. It doesn't matter. For years, we didn't have reso heads on them. It was, and they're like, I'll beat the crap out of this head, and after the show, we'll throw it away and we'll put all new heads on. And they're like, you can do that. I'm like, go out on tour. you learn real quick.
Yeah.
You make do real quick.
And that's what it is, man. It's just it's a brotherhood in that respect, because Rick had no reason to come out on stage and give me a snare drum. But I'll tell you what's smart about it is that when you look at bands like that, and this is another lesson for bands, you're not in competition with that band. Okay, what you need to do as an opening act is listen and watch and learn. And you'll never be in competition, because you're never going to be better than them right off the bat, or it doesn't even matter. You got to do your thing, and that's it. So so those are the lessons of the young drummer that I kind of figured out, early on. So what I was driving home to is that, when you're a younger band and you're going out on the road, with a seasoned band, again, it comes down to just keep your mouth shut. Watch and learn, because that's when you're going to learn the most. You can get into lessons with people and you'll learn the basics, but the reality is that our life as touring musicians, there's a lot to learn on the road, and drumming's one of them. But there's a lot to learn about the show and the bands and all that stuff. So
we got to talk about, because I think that's a perfect segue into your documentary.
Yeah.
And yes, I snooped a little. Talk about the documentary, because I think, again, it's another brilliant avenue to impart knowledge and wisdom, and which the young drummers, they need to have. And they're all fascinated. We all are in some respect, because there's just so many greats that have come before us. Right. And, I talk about maybe at some point on my micro level, doing a documentary on myself, just to pass on some of my experiences and what I've been through to some of the younger drummers. How did you dive into that? Was it just like, I want to do this, or did somebody approach you?
Well, my first documentary was in 2006. We released it. It was called Waking Up Dead. Okay. Now, that documentary was a filmmaker and a good friend of mine, Fabio Jaffe, and he filmed me. He's a news guy. I met him when they were out on the road doing a story on Kiss, right? So he came from my local news channel, like in South Florida. So we started talking, and he's a brilliant cameraman, but a director and editor, and he wanted to follow me on the road. So my first documentary, which is it's dark, and I did this because I let a camera follow me for 4 years, and I went, at the end of it is when I went to rehab, and I had a terrible drug addiction, sex, all those things that, I was living the rock star dream. Yeah. All the time. I had young children, and you met my kids that are grown up now, but they are awesome. Thank you. They're just like, they're just wonderful humans. And, but back then they were younger, and the things that we didn't think about, like, cause I'm living these dreams. So Waking Up Dead is very dark and hard to watch, because we show literally doing drugs and my craziness. And the reason why I did it was to help others.
Was that hard to explain to the kids, like when they watched it, going, okay, Dad went through some rough patches? Well,
I mean, look, I don't want them to watch it, but I always treated my kids as adults. So we talk about everything, so we talked about sex, we talk about drugs. It was never a taboo thing in my house. That's the way I was raised,
That's how it has to be. How are they going to learn but from us?
They have to see it, and they have to hear about it, and they have to know that they can come to you if there's an issue. Because look, if my kids are going to experiment with drugs, I'd rather them do it around me so I can help them if, God forbid, something happens, or whatever. And they're going to experiment. They're kids,
Let me give you guidance.
Yeah. And that doesn't make you a bad parent that you're allowing them to do drugs. I think it's a matter of half the time they're going to be like, oh, why would you do this? This is terrible. Like it's a funny thing when you give somebody permission, they don't really want to do it. It's no fun anymore.
I always told my kid, you want a drink? I'll buy you alcohol. You can drink. And my kid is not really a drinker. And he's 21 now.
My dad did that for me. Here, have a beer, kid. And I was like, this tastes like crap. When you're a kid, you're like, I don't get it. That documentary was about that, is to help others. And I did a college speaking tour. I went on the Native American reservations and talked to the kids, because, they had problems with all that stuff. And the way I looked at it is, well, if they're not going to listen to their parents, maybe they'll listen to this pseudo rock star come in and go, hey, they might think I'm cool for a second and listen to it. So we did that. At the end of that, you don't really know what happens with me. Yes, I say that I'm going to be okay, but now we fast forward so many years. So 30 years a drummer is
Yeah.
it's about the happiness of it. It's because you saw the heartache in Waking Up Dead. Okay. I wanted this to be a celebration of drumming. I wanted this to be the good parts of drumming, because my anger with the record industry is over. Like, I'm not fighting with music anymore. I love my drums, you know, because you go through those stages where you hate everything, and I wanted to really celebrate the great moments and tell these stories. And I have footage of everything, because we were shooting all the time. And my mother, she had passed away in 98, but up until then, I always would be like, Ma, stop taking pictures. Will you stop? And she would never
now
stop.
You're glad.
And I'm so happy she didn't stop.
Thank you, Mom.
She, Mom was just like documenting, but since then I always shot everything. And what has happened is this wonderful thing has happened over the last couple of years. Unfortunately, COVID stopped a lot of things, and obviously we lost a lot of folks, and it's awful. And I sat there and went, as a musician, and this, we were like, well, what do we do? Like, what can we do? Where can we play? And I decided to dive into recording and learn, because I spent so many years being a rock star that I forgot that I could have learned how to record. I didn't. I was too busy trying to get chicks and do the dumb stuff. And I had all these great producers around me. And what did I do? I remember,
you squandered it, but you didn't know, because
I didn't know.
It'll always be there. You take it for granted. Like, oh, it'll be there. Yeah, I'll get to it. And then you're like, whoa, I didn't get to it. Oh, no.
It's not. And then you're 50 and you're like, wait a minute, what happened? Because that's another thing too. It's like the time flies. So that's what I did during COVID. I just sat and I learned engineering and mixing and songwriting. And so this documentary has a soundtrack. And the great part about the soundtrack, by the way, it's 30yearsofdrummer.com if you want to go check it out. I mean,
we're going to put it on the screen. 30yearsofdrummer.com.
It has a synopsis on there, has music, it has a timeline, so you could see me when I was young and all that stuff, and how, terribly old I am now. But the idea was like, let's just show the good stuff. And what has happened now is like the songwriting thing that's happened and engineering. So we're having a good time. And the same band that I formed in 94. So it's the same band, same guys. That's Panic Boom.
Yeah.
We're all older. One of the guys was in Saigon Kick with me, Chris McClernand, the bass player. We decided to, I said for the soundtrack, I go, hey, would you guys want to just do a song for the soundtrack? Because I want to document, and every song that's on the soundtrack is from bands you don't know. No, not from the big bands. It's like, I want to show you how I started. So there's Rippin' Finger songs on there. It's how we started. And there's going to be a little bit of an audible as well. And that just blew up to like, let's do a record. And so we recorded like 2 records already. And, so 30 Years of Drummer is going to be a celebration of friendship, how we got there, and giving credit to where the credit goes, which is, Tony Cortese, my guitar player, that took a shot on me. Tom Reinhardt for bullying me into playing drums. To Jakey Lee, who sat there and said, man, you can do this. It's very important that drummers hear this, because there's a lot more to it than just you at a kit. There's a lot that gets you to the kit and then gets you to play as well. And I think it's important. And I'm just going to tell story after story. Like the Rick Allen story is one of them. Lord. I mean, and I have great stories, and I lost a lot of friends like Vinnie Paul. We lost Nick Menza from Megadeth, who, I love the guy. Frankie Benelli, like all these great people that we lost. And I want to, talk about them and my times with them as well.
And I don't think people realize, as drummers, we're in the background, but we are the heart. And I always tell everybody, I got the best job in the band. It's the most important job of the band. I am the heartbeat of the band. No doubt. I don't need to be out front. Although, yes, I'm kind of an attention.
Oh, you're great out front too, though. You're very funny. I was very, very much amused.
Thank you. But I mean, I'm very comfortable with my role. I know what I took on as a drummer. I love the anvil that sits on my shoulder, the responsibility. And I always joke, I'm like, they call it a throne for a reason, because we do sit on the throne of power and responsibility. And we don't get as much attention as those out front. And that's okay. We don't need it, because you're cut from a certain cloth if you're going to be a drummer, and you get it. And like I always say, it's a tribe, it's a brotherhood, sisterhood. We are drummers. And yeah, there's a camaraderie that transcends all the other genres, all the other garbage out there.
Absolutely.
We are drummers, and that's a badge of honor in my book. And so it's
no doubt. And you know, that's been one of my hardest problems with technology. Okay. Is because everything's electronic, which look, we have to technologically, we have to advance. We have to, you know, and but a lot of stuff these days is just missing the heart, you know, and I have to say, with these bands that program drums and all that stuff, I mean, it sounds perfect and it's terrible to me. It's awful. Like, I mean, there's no heartbeat, you know.
I love my 65 Ludwigs. If I had to get rid of all my drums, I'd keep the 65s hands down. And everyone's like, Rick, why? I'm like, because there's a warmth. There's history there. And I'm not a guy who plays with click tracks. I can play with a click. I don't. My job is drummer. That means I am your metronome, and I spend a lot of time studying tempos and I'm human. There is a fluidity of on stage between the guitar, bass, all of us. That is just, it's beautiful when you're moving as one. And I will tell you, one of my secret little pleasures is I like watching like the Vienna Philharmonic. And watching, you know, you're watching 50, 80 folks moving as one. I'm getting a little older, but I listen to that. It's beauty. I'm fascinated by it. I think it's incredible.
It's amazing, actually, because there's a singer here that I'm working with, Sean Coey, and she's amazing. She's actually sings with she's with Jefferson Starship, so she's out there touring and stuff. And we've been writing songs, and one of her loves is the 30s, you know, like the time. Nice. And so we're redoing a song called Midnight, which is the song on The Shining in the ballroom.
Yes.
And I'm listening to this song, and it's like they got 30, 40 people just together. Wow. That is like, it gives you goosebumps to listen to music like that, because there wasn't click tracks. There's nothing there. A couple of mics, you know, recording this beautiful thing that's happening with musicians that are so connected, you know, that they don't even have to look at each other. It's just, it's just human. It's so real. It's alive, you know? And I think that we miss that in some music. Now, granted, I love hip hop stuff. I love, you know, with the samples and all that cool stuff, and, you know, laying down beats. I love that stuff. I'm working with a hip hop artist now who's amazing. But man, there's nothing beats the heartbeat, you know.
Can you go back to doing it all organically? And then everyone's like, what do you mean by that, Rick? I'm like, you could still do hip hop. I don't care. Do it organically. Like, let's throw a band together and actually do it, because there's some phenomenal beats. Oh my God, are you kidding me? It's oh man.
And I always thought about that. I was like, you know what the cool gig would be? Because early in my career, I was called in. A buddy of mine had a studio, and he goes, "Hey man, you want to come in and play drums on this project real quick for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." I didn't know what it was. I walk in there, and there's a hip hop.
Oh yeah.
Artist. Now, and I was the only white guy in the studio, and that's okay.
Don't even care. It's not about color. It's about music.
I walk in because I'm a drummer. I don't give a shit. You know, I don't care. I don't look at people in color. I look at humans, you know?
Yep.
But they said, "Who's the drummer?" And I was like, "Me." And they're like, "This white boy is going to play drums." You know, like, I'm like, yeah, this white boy is going to play some drums now. I got in there and unloaded. And what I did is I played my style. So all the tribal stuff, and they were high-fiving themselves through the glass.
Yep.
So I ended up coming in for a song and did the whole record. And they said then they said, "Can we sample those beats and stuff? We'd like to use all that stuff."
Yeah.
And I thought that was really fun, because to me, it was like they looked at me all of a sudden, not as a white boy, but as a drummer. And we were musicians. We weren't like the whole tough deal. I know they were trying to intimidate me, you know, like that's the bit. And it was really fun. And ever since then, I always thought, like, wouldn't it be cool to see like someone like me, you know, behind Jay-Z, just unloading like a live band, like, you know? And I always I think there's room for all that stuff.
Phil, that is the epitome of it. Music is supposed to tear down walls. I mean, that is what we do.
Absolutely.
Oh my Lord. You know what? Would you come back on the show sometime? We don't have enough time. I know we're at the end. Holy cow. We could talk for hours. There's a million things. Oh my Lord. I'll recap real quick because I want people to go watch your documentary. It's 30 years of drumming.com. Is that right?
30 years of drummer.com. Years as YRS. Like, okay. So it's
we'll put it on the screen right there.
Yeah.
You guys can
Phil
see
Varone.com.
Yes.
Of course, you can always go on there. And so it's all coming out over the next months. We're working on stuff with new, we have new singles, all that stuff, but it's updated on the doc.
Oh, we'll have you back on, especially once let's get it out for a couple months and then we'll continue to promote
we definitely got to talk about that. I'll send you a copy so you can take it in.
Oh my God, we will.
Have some fun with it. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show today, man.
My pleasure.
It was a pleasure to meet you at Drumathon and now to really get to know you. And I knew right away because you're just as much of a smart mouth as me. I'm trying to be.
We can't shut up.
I don't.
We just can't. Let's face it. Okay.
Well, I tell everybody this is just me. I'm not changing, man. It took me 52 years to get here. I'm not. This is it. You get
no reason to. I'd rather do this any day than watch the news or watch negative stuff. You have fun.
Oh my Lord.
That's it. Let's just have fun.
Oh my Lord.
Damn.
So for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, thank you so much. We love having you come watch. If you're new, like us on Facebook, follow us. If you have friends that are into music, have them follow us. If you're in a local band here in Dallas-Fort Worth, send me your stuff. I'll promote it. We have the other show, Concert Connections concert calendar. I would love to announce it. If you're just a fan looking for live music, go check us out. We're not just on Facebook. You can follow us on iHeart Radio. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We have Instagram and Twitter, which that if you're like, it's not updated, Rick. Yeah, that's probably me because I got a million things going on. You can also go and follow us on our Roku channel and our Amazon Fire channel. So if you can't find the show, you're not looking.
You're dead.
we are out there for you. And again, you can also go get our app. It's a free app for all of y'all to use. It's In the Pit with Ric. You can watch the show there. We have a calendar, which if you're in a band, you can promote there. If you're just looking for live shows, go ahead and use it. And it's a work in progress. So if you have some suggestions, we always love, give us some ideas, man. We'll change it. It's about you, the fans and the musicians. We're just trying to tie you guys together. We want you to have folks come out to the show and enjoy this musical journey that you're on. So go check it out. Again, thank you so much, Phil, for coming on the show, man. I want to do it again. I would definitely, next time you're in town, let me know. I'd love to get together just so we can terrorize each other.
Well, my kids live there, so I'll be back and forth for sure.
Oh my Lord. Yeah, definitely. Next time you come in town, I didn't realize your kids lived here. Come, let me know, man. We'll go grab some dinner for sure. Thank y'all for tuning in. This has been Phil. I am Rick, and we are hanging out on In the Pit, and we will see you somewhere in the pit.